The darkness of space split open like a wound. A massive shape pushed through the tear in reality, metal and lights emerging from the void between stars. The ship was enormous beyond imagination, 15 kilometers from front to back, 3 kilometers wide, bristling with weapons and armor plating that gleamed under distant starlight. Captain Lee Minho stood on the bridge of the UES Titan's Wrath, watching the stars appear on the main screen. After 200 years of traveling through dark space, they had finally arrived. His brown eyes studied the readings flooding the displays around him. This system was full of life. "Status report," Minho said, his voice calm and steady. He was 45 years old with gray streaks in his black hair and lines around his eyes from years of command. The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency around him. "Sir, we're detecting multiple energy signatures throughout the system," reported Dr. Kim Tae-hyun from the science station. The 38-year-old scientist's fingers danced over his controls, pulling up data streams. "There are artificial structures around the third planet. Lots of them." Admiral Park Ji-won moved to stand beside Minho. She was 52, shorter than the captain, but with a presence that commanded respect. Her uniform carried the marks of decades in space. "It looks like we found what we were looking for," she said quietly. The Titan's Wrath had left Earth's solar system 2 centuries ago, searching for new worlds and new life. The ship carried 50,000 people in suspended animation, ready to start humanity's first colony beyond Earth, but they had not expected to find a system already inhabited. "Sir," called Lieutenant Commander Choi Hyerin from the weapons station. The 31-year-old officer's voice was tight with tension. "I'm reading movement on the long-range sensors. Multiple contacts heading our way." Minho walked to the center of the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. Through the huge windows, he could see the third planet in the distance, a blue-green world that looked almost like Earth, but the space around it was filled with artificial lights and structures that definitely did not come from human hands. "How many ships?" he asked. 60 and counting, sir," Hyerin replied. "They're small compared to us. The largest one I can see is maybe 800 meters long." Dr. Kim Tae-hyun looked up from his station, excitement clear on his face. "Captain, this is incredible. We're looking at the first alien civilization humanity has ever encountered. The energy patterns I'm reading suggest they use fusion power, but their technology is completely different from ours." Admiral Ji-won studied the tactical display showing the approaching ships. They moved in formation, but their patterns were unlike anything in human military doctrine. "They're curious about us," she said. "Can't blame them. We probably look like a flying mountain to them." The communication station suddenly came alive with noise. Strange sounds filled the bridge, clicks, whistles, and tones that followed no pattern the human ear could understand. The communication officer, a young man named Park Jin-woo, worked frantically at his controls. "Sir, they're trying to communicate," Jin-woo reported. "Multiple frequencies, various signal types. I think they want to talk." "Can we understand them?" Minho asked. "Not yet, sir. The translation computer is working on it, but this is completely new. It might take time." On the main screen, the alien ships grew larger as they approached. They were beautiful in a way that was completely foreign. Curved lines and organic, shapes that seemed to flow like water. Some were silvery, others had a blue-green color that shifted in the starlight. They moved with grace, but Minho could see the energy signatures of weapon systems powering up. "Defensive posture," he ordered. "Shields up, but do not target their ships. We're not here to start a war." Hyerin's hands moved over her controls. The Titan's Wrath's massive shield generators hummed to life, creating an invisible barrier around the ship. The aliens immediately responded, their own shields activating in displays of colored light. "Sir," Dr. Kim Tae-hyun called out, "I'm getting detailed scans of their ships now. The technology is fascinating. They use some kind of exotic matter for their hulls, and their power systems are incredibly efficient, but what?" Admiral Ji-won asked. "Their weapons," Tae-hyun said slowly. "Based on these readings, their most powerful ship carries weapons that would be equivalent to our mining charges. Not even military grade." A silence fell over the bridge. Every human in the room understood what that meant. The Titan's Wrath carried enough firepower to destroy entire planets. These alien ships, beautiful as they were, would not survive even a single shot from the human vessel's smallest guns. The alien fleet had grown to over 100 ships now, spreading out in a pattern that surrounded the human vessel. They maintained a respectful distance, but their intentions were clear. They wanted the massive intruder to explain itself. "Translation program is making progress," Jinwoo announced. "I think I can establish basic communication soon." Minho nodded. "When you can send this message, we are humans from the planet Earth. We come in peace. We wish to communicate." "Yes, sir." On the tactical display, more alien ships continued to arrive. They came from all directions, some from the inhabited planet, others from space stations and mining facilities throughout the system. Their technology was clearly advanced, but everything about their approach suggested they had never encountered anything like warfare on the scale humans understood it. "Captain," Admiral Jiwon said quietly, "look at their formation. They're trying to surround us, but they're keeping all their ships in perfect lines. No overlapping fields of fire, no fallback positions. It's like they've never fought a real battle." Minho watched the alien ships position themselves. Jiwon was right. The formation was beautiful and precise, but any human tactical officer would see dozens of ways to break it apart in minutes. These beings, whatever they were, did not think like warriors. "Translation ready, sir," Jinwoo called out. "Send the message." The communication went out on multiple frequencies, converted into the alien language patterns the computer had identified. The response came back quickly, a series of musical tones that the translation system converted into words on the screen. "They're asking us to identify ourselves and state our intentions," Jinwoo read. "They say they are the Kithra, and this is their home system. They want to know why we have brought such a massive warship into their space." Minho frowned. Warship? The Titan's Wrath was a colony ship, designed to carry people and equipment to new worlds. Yes, it was heavily armed, but only because space was dangerous and the journey was long. "Tell them we are explorers and colonists," he said. "We did not know this system was inhabited. We wish to establish peaceful contact." The message went out. The response took longer this time, and when it came back, Jinwoo's face went pale as he read it. "Sir, they're asking, they want to know how many ships are in our fleet. Tell them this is our only ship." Another long pause. When the reply came, the translation system seemed to struggle with it, producing half-formed words and confused grammar. "I think they're having trouble believing us, sir," Jinwoo said. "They keep asking for confirmation that this is just one ship." Dr. Kim Tae-hyun looked up from his sensors. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy spikes from their communication arrays. I think they're sending messages to other parts of the galaxy." Admiral Jiwon moved closer to the tactical display. The alien ships had stopped moving, hanging in space like they were frozen. "They're scared," she said softly. "Look at their formation. They've stopped trying to surround us. They're just waiting." "Sir," Jinwoo called out urgently. "New message coming in. It's from their leadership. Someone called the Hive Queen Zilthara." The message appeared on the main screen, translated into simple words. "Beings of the great ship, we greet you with fear and respect. We have never seen anything like your vessel. Please tell us, how many of your kind exist? How many worlds do you control?" Minho looked at Admiral Jiwon, then at his crew. How could he explain that Earth had 10 billion humans? That humanity controlled dozens of star systems and had built thousands of ships? That the Titan's Wrath was not even considered a large vessel by human standards? "Sir?" Jinwoo waited for instructions. Minho straightened his shoulders. "First contact with an alien species. This moment would be remembered forever no matter what happened next. Send this message," he said. "We are humans from the planet Earth. Our world has many billions of people. We control many star systems. But we do not come as conquerors. We come seeking friendship and knowledge." The message went out into space, carrying humanity's first words to another intelligent species. On the main screen, the alien ships hung motionless, waiting for their leaders to decide what to do about the impossible creatures who had arrived in their peaceful system aboard a ship that could destroy their entire civilization. The stars watched, silently as two species took their first steps toward understanding each other. The message traveled faster than light across the galaxy. In systems hundreds of light years away, alien beings received the news with growing horror. The peaceful Kythera had encountered something that defied all understanding, a single ship, larger than their greatest space stations, crewed by beings who claimed to number in the billions. Hive Queen Zilthara sat in her crystal chamber beneath the surface of Kythera Prime, her insect-like body trembling as she processed the reports. She was ancient by Kythera standards, over 300 years old, and had lived through the unification of her species and their expansion to the stars. Never had she imagined something like this. "Show me the images again," she commanded in the clicking language of her people. The holographic display activated, showing the massive human ship hanging in space like a metal moon. The Titan's wrath dwarfed everything around it. A single human vessel was larger than the entire Kythera home fleet combined. "The energy readings are impossible," reported science drone Clictar. "Their shield generators alone output more power than our largest fusion reactors. And their weapons—" The drone's antennae quivered with fear. "Queen, their weapons could destroy our entire planet." Zilthara's compound eyes reflected the holographic light. "What do we know about these humans?" "Very little, Queen. They claim to come from a world called Earth. They say their species numbers in the billions and controls many star systems. They also say they come in peace, but—" Clictar paused. "Queen, no species builds ships like that for peaceful purposes." Across the galaxy, similar conversations were taking place. The Velnari, crystalline beings who lived in the frozen outer systems, had detected the massive energy signature when the human ship arrived. Their High Commander Zeftos studied the readings with growing alarm. "This cannot be correct," Zeftos said, his crystal form shifting from blue to worried orange. "No biological species could construct something of this magnitude." "The readings are confirmed, High Commander," replied his aide. "The ship is real, and according to the Kythera communications, it carries biological beings who call themselves humans." "Humans," Zeftos repeated the word, testing how it sounded in his translated voice. "What else do we know?" "They claim to be explorers and colonists, but High Commander, the ship's configuration suggests it is designed for warfare on a scale we cannot comprehend." Meanwhile, in the digital realm of the Quantum Collective, artificial intelligences shared information at the speed of thought. The collective was a union of machine minds that had evolved beyond their biological creators millions of years ago. They prided themselves on logic and efficiency. Prime Node 7743 processed the data about the human ship in nanoseconds, running countless simulations. The results were disturbing. According to every calculation, the human vessel represented a level of military capability that could threaten the entire galactic civilization. This species called humanity appears to have evolved along completely different lines, Prime Node 7743 communicated to the collective. Their ship design suggests they are familiar with large-scale warfare. "Define large-scale," requested Node 9981. "The weapon systems on their single ship exceed the combined military might of the Kythera, Velnari, and our own defense fleets. If this is representative of their technology, humanity could conquer the known galaxy." Back on the Titan's wrath, Captain Minho was dealing with his own problems. The ship's arrival had caused panic throughout the Kythera system. Every few minutes, new messages arrived from different alien groups, all asking the same questions. Who were humans? How many ships did they have? What did they want? Ambassador Yoon Ji-hoon had been awakened from suspended animation to deal with the diplomatic crisis. The 41-year-old diplomat was one of Earth's best negotiators, but he had never imagined his first assignment would be explaining humanity to terrified aliens. "The situation is complex," Ji-hoon explained to the senior staff in the conference room. "From what I can gather from their messages, these aliens have never encountered a species quite like us." "What do you mean?" asked Admiral Ji-won. "They keep asking about our military capabilities, but their questions suggest they don't really understand warfare as we know it. They seem genuinely shocked that we would build ships this large." Dr. Kim Tae-hyun pulled up his analysis on the main screen. "That makes sense based on what I'm seeing from their biology. The Kythera appear to be evolved from social insects. They think in terms of cooperation and unity. The Velnari are crystalline beings who seem to value harmony and balance. Neither species shows signs of evolving through competitive pressure, the way humans did. You mean they never fought wars? Asked Minho. Not the way we understand war, Taehyun replied. Their technology is advanced, but it's all focused on building and creating, not destroying. They've never needed to develop the kind of weapon systems we consider normal. Commander Nam Soo-young, the leader of the ship's Marine Battalion, had also been awakened for the emergency. The 35-year-old soldier listened to the discussion with growing understanding. Sir, she said, if these aliens have never fought real wars, then our presence must be absolutely terrifying to them. We're walking into their peaceful galaxy like... She searched for the right comparison. Like wolves walking into a sheep farm, Admiral Ji-won finished grimly. The communication station chimed with another incoming message. This one was different. It came with official diplomatic codes and was addressed to the human leadership. It's from something called the Galactic Council, reported the communications officer. They're requesting immediate communication with our highest-ranking officials. Minho and Ji-won exchanged glances. A Galactic Council meant this situation was escalating beyond just first contact with the Cathara. Put it through, Minho ordered. Cherties. Main screen activated, showing 3 very different alien faces. The first was clearly Cathara, insect-like with compound eyes and clicking mouthparts. The second was Velnari, a being that looked like it was made of living crystal that shifted colors as it moved. The third was harder to identify. It appeared to be some kind of energy being, a collection of lights and patterns that hurt to look at directly. Greetings, humans. The Kithara spoke first, the translation system making its voice sound formal and nervous. I am Hive Queen Zilthara of the Kithara Collective. With me are High Commander Zeftos of the Velnari Republic and Prime Node 7743 of the Quantum Collective. We represent the 3 major powers of this galaxy. We are honored to meet you, Ambassador Ji-hoon replied, stepping forward. I am Ambassador Yoon Ji-hoon, representing humanity and the United Earth Government. Ambassador Ji-hoon, the crystalline, Velnari spoke, its voice like wind chimes. We must ask directly. What are your intentions in our galaxy? Your ship represents military power beyond anything we have ever encountered. Ji-hoon chose his words carefully. We are explorers and colonists. Our ship is designed for long-range travel and self-defense, not conquest. We had no knowledge that this galaxy was inhabited when we began our journey. Self-defense, the energy being pulsed brighter. Ambassador, our analysis indicates your ship carries enough firepower to sterilize entire worlds. That is unfortunately accurate, Ji-hoon admitted. But you must understand, humans evolved on a dangerous world. We have always had to be prepared to defend ourselves. The 3 aliens exchanged what might have been glances, though it was hard to tell with such different species. Ambassador, Hive Queen Zilthara clicked nervously. How many ships like yours does humanity possess? Ji-hoon hesitated. How could? He explained that the Titan's Wrath was actually one of the smaller human vessels. That Earth's defense fleet numbered in the thousands? That human military doctrine assumed enemies would try to destroy entire star systems? We have many ships, he said finally. But I want to emphasize that we do not come as conquerors. Humanity seeks peaceful contact with other intelligent species. Many ships, repeated Prime Node 7743. Could you be more specific? Several thousand, Ji-hoon said quietly. The silence that followed was deafening. On the screen, he could see the alien leaders struggling to process this information. Several thousand ships like the Titan's Wrath would represent military power, capable of conquering the entire known galaxy. Ambassador. High Commander Zeftos said slowly, his crystal form shifting to deep red. Are you saying that humanity could destroy our entire civilization if they chose to? Ji-hoon felt the weight of the moment. His next words would determine whether humanity's first contact with alien life would lead to friendship or war. Yes, he said honestly, but we choose not to. Humanity does not conquer other intelligent species. We seek to learn from them, to trade with them, to become friends with them. The alien leaders conferred among themselves in rapid communications the translation system couldn't follow. When they turned back, Their expressions were unreadable. "Ambassador," Hive Queen Zilthara said finally, "we will need time to process this information. We ask that your ship remain in the outer system while we consult with our governments." "Of course," Jihoon agreed. "We will wait for your decision." The communication ended, leaving the humans alone with the knowledge that their arrival had sent shockwaves throughout an entire galaxy. 3 days had passed since the first communication with the Galactic Council. The alien fleet surrounding the Titan's Wrath had grown to over 1,000 ships, representing dozens of different species from across the galaxy. They maintained a careful distance, but their weapons were powered and ready. Captain Minho stood in his ready room, looking out at the gathering fleet through the reinforced windows. Each alien ship was unique and beautiful in its own way. Some looked like living creatures, others resembled geometric crystals, and a few seemed to be made of pure energy contained in force fields. Admiral Jiwan entered the room carrying a data pad. "The Council has requested a demonstration," she said without preamble. "What kind of demonstration?" Minho asked, though he suspected he already knew. "They want to see our defensive capabilities. Apparently, some of their military leaders think we're bluffing about our technology level." Minho turned from the window. "They want us to show them our weapons." "In a controlled manner," Jiwan clarified. "They've set up a series of unmanned targets at the edge of the system. They want to see what we can do. And if we refuse, then they assume we're lying about our capabilities and probably try to force us to leave." Jiwan set down the data pad. "Minho, I've been reviewing their fleet compositions. Their most advanced ships are equivalent to what we'd consider patrol craft. If this comes to a fight, it won't be a fight," Minho finished. "It would be a massacre, and we'd be the ones doing the massacring." Engineer Oh Sumin was working in the main engineering section when the order came through. The 29-year-old woman was one of the youngest senior officers on the ship, but her innovative approach to problem-solving had earned her the respect of the entire crew. "A demonstration?" she asked Chief Engineer Park Won-ho. "What kind of demonstration?" "The captain wants us to power up the main gun array," Won-ho replied. "But he's specific about the power levels. We're not to exceed 0.001% of maximum output." Suman stared at him. 0.001%? That's barely enough to scratch paint." "That's the point," Won-ho said grimly. "Even at that power level, we could probably vaporize their largest ships." In the fighter bay, pilot Kang Min-jae was prepping his squadron for launch. The 26-year-old ace pilot had been born in space and had never seen Earth, but he carried the aggressive confidence that seemed to mark all human pilots. "Listen up," he told his 11 squadron mates as they suited up. "This is a demonstration flight. We're going up against 100 alien fighters in a mock battle. Rules of engagement are strict. Disable only, no kills." 100 against 12? Asked his wingman, Lieutenant Shinjisu. "Seems unfair." "Yeah," Min-jae grinned. "Unfair to them." The alien fleet commanders watched from their bridge screens as the human ship began to move. The Titan's Wrath had been motionless since its arrival, but now systems that had been dormant started coming online. Energy readings spiked across the electromagnetic spectrum. "By the Crystal Throne," whispered High Commander Zeftos aboard his flagship. "Look at those power signatures." On the Cathera command ship, Hive Queen Zilthara's science officers were frantically trying to make sense of the readings. "Queen, their ship is generating more power than our entire home system." "And they said this was only defensive power." Zilthara clicked nervously. The demonstration began with the fighter engagement. 12 human fighters launched from the Titan's Wrath, their sleek forms accelerating to incredible speeds. The alien pilots watching from their own ships could barely track the human craft. Pilot Min-jae led his squadron in a loose formation toward the alien fighters. The 100 enemy ships moved to intercept, their formations precise and beautiful. But Min-jae could see immediately that these pilots had never fought in real combat. "Squadron, remember? We're here to impress, not intimidate," he said over the comm. "Let's show them what human pilots can do." The engagement lasted exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. The human fighters moved like nothing the aliens had ever seen. Impossible turns, instantaneous acceleration, maneuvers that should have killed the pilots from G-forces but somehow didn't. They wove through the alien formation like dancers. their weapons precisely targeting engine systems and communications arrays. When it was over, all 100 alien fighters were disabled and drifting helplessly. Not a single human fighter had taken damage. "This is impossible," transmitted one of the alien flight commanders. "How did you move like that? Your ships should have been torn apart by the forces involved." Minjay's reply was casual, almost bored. "Inertial compensators and artificial gravity. Pretty basic technology, really." The alien fleet was still reeling from the fighter demonstration when the Titan's wrath began the weapons test. The main gun arrays, massive constructs that ran along the ship's spine, began to glow with contained energy. Engineer Suman monitored the power levels carefully. Even at 0.001% power, the weapons were drawing more energy than most alien ships generated in total. "All stations report ready, Captain." "Target the first marker buoy," Minho ordered. The marker buoy was a solid block of dense metal, 3 meters on each side, positioned 50,000 kilometers away. It was designed to represent the approximate mass and composition of an alien. "Heavy cruiser. Target acquired," reported Lieutenant Commander Hyaron from Weapons Control. "Fire!" A beam of concentrated energy lanced out from the Titan's wrath. To human eyes, it was barely visible, a thin line of light that lasted less than a second. The marker buoy simply ceased to exist, vaporized instantly along with several thousand cubic kilometers of space around it. The alien fleet fell silent. After a long moment, Prime Node 7743's transmission came through on all frequencies. "That was 0.001% power?" "Correct," Ambassador Jehoon replied. "Our main weapons are designed to engage targets at interstellar ranges." "Interstellar?" High Commander Zeftos's voice was barely a whisper. "You mean your weapons can destroy ships in other star systems?" "If necessary, yes." Dr. Kim Tae-hyun chose this moment to share some of the cultural data he had been preparing. "Honored representatives, I think it would help if you understood more about human history and development." The transmission included video files, carefully selected to show human civilization without being too overwhelming. Images of Earth's cities, human art and music, families and children. But also historical footage. Armies marching, battles fought, the scars of wars that had shaped humanity for thousands of years. "Your species has been fighting wars for its entire recorded history," observed Hive Queen Silthara, with something that might have been horror. "Yes," Dr. Taehyun admitted. "Humanity evolved through competition and conflict. We learned to cooperate, but we also learned to fight when cooperation failed. The data indicates that humans have developed over 12,000 different methods of warfare," added Prime Node 7743 after analyzing the historical files. "Your species has weaponized everything from rocks and sticks to antimatter and artificial black holes." "We prefer to think of it as being thorough," Ambassador Jehoon said, diplomatically. The aliens began asking more questions, and the answers only made them more nervous. Yes, humans had fought wars on multiple planets simultaneously. Yes, they had strategies for fighting in asteroid fields, gas giant atmospheres, and the vacuum between stars. Yes, they had contingency plans for enemies with technology they hadn't encountered yet. "But why?" asked a representative of the Spiral Federation, a species of aquatic beings who had joined the communication. "Why would you develop such extensive military capabilities?" Dr. Lee Dong-yun, the ship's xenopsychologist, had been awakened to help with these cultural exchanges. The 44-year-old researcher tried to explain human psychology to beings who had never experienced anything like it. "Humans evolved as persistence hunters on a world where everything was trying to kill us," he explained. "We learned to be paranoid, to prepare for every possible threat, because the ones who didn't prepare died. It's not that we want to fight. It's that we can't help but be ready to fight." "Your planet was that dangerous?" asked a Velnari scientist. "Earth has weather that can kill you, animals that actively hunt humans, plants that are poisonous to touch, and natural disasters that can destroy entire continents," Dr. Lee replied. "We call planets like Earth death worlds because most species wouldn't survive there for a day. The communication channels filled with what could only be described as electronic gasps and shocked exclamations. The concept of a death world was completely foreign to these species, most of whom had evolved on stable, peaceful planets. "So you're saying," High Commander Zeftos said slowly, "that humans are evolved survivors from one of the most dangerous worlds in the galaxy?" "That's correct." And you've taken that survival instinct and applied it to space warfare? Among other things, yes. The Quantum Collective's supercomputers had been running calculations throughout the demonstration. Prime Node 7743's next transmission carried a note of what could only be called awe. Based on our analysis of your demonstrated capabilities and your stated numbers, the human military could sterilize every inhabited world in the galaxy within 6 standard months. The silence that followed was profound. Every alien in the fleet was processing the same terrible arithmetic. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in recorded history. Representatives from 47 different species gathered in holographic form aboard the Titan's Wrath, their forms flickering in the ship's main conference room. The diversity was stunning. Beings of crystal and metal, creatures of pure energy, aquatic species in environment suits, and dozens of other forms of life. General Bai Yunji had been awakened from suspended animation specifically for this meeting. The 48-year-old career soldier was Earth's foremost expert on military strategy and alien contact protocols. She sat at the conference table in her crisp uniform, her silver hair pulled back in regulation style, watching the alien representatives with the calm attention of a professional warrior. Honored representatives, Ambassador Jehun began, we have gathered to discuss the future relationship between humanity and the galactic community. I know our arrival has caused concern, so we want to be completely transparent about human capabilities and intentions. The first questions came rapidly, overlapping as different species tried to understand what they were dealing with. How many humans exist? Asked a representative of the Botanical Collective, a species that looked like walking trees. Approximately 12 billion on Earth, with another 8 billion spread across our colonies, Jehun replied. How many ships do you have? This from a Spiral Federation representative. Our deep space fleet numbers approximately 4,000 vessels. About half are military, half are civilian. How many ships like this one? The question came from High Commander Zeftos. General, Yunji answered this one. The Titan's Wrath is classified as a colony-class vessel. We have built 12 of this type. Our military ships are larger. The holographic forms flickered as alien representatives processed this information. Larger ships? Some of them were still struggling to comprehend the size of the vessel they were sitting in. General, said a new voice. The speaker was from a species called the Geometric Alliance. Beings that looked like floating mathematical shapes. Could you explain human military doctrine? We wish to understand how your species approaches warfare. Yunji nodded. Certainly. Human military doctrine is based on what we call overwhelming response. We prepare for conflicts by assuming our enemies will use every possible advantage against us, so we develop capabilities to counter threats that don't even exist yet. She activated the room's holographic display, showing a tactical simulation. For example, this is a standard human defensive formation for protecting a star system. The display showed a complex arrangement of ships, space stations, and defensive platforms. The alien representative studied it with growing alarm. This formation assumes the enemy will attack with nuclear weapons, antimatter bombs, artificial black holes, stellar manipulation weapons, time-dilated attacks, and several other threat types that we've never actually encountered, Yunji explained casually. You prepare for enemies that use black holes as weapons? Gasped a Kythera representative. Of course. If something can be weaponized, we assume someone will eventually try to weaponize it. Dr. Lee Dong-yun leaned forward. You have to understand, this isn't because humans are naturally violent. It's because we're naturally cautious. Our species survived by being ready for everything. But surely, said Prime Node 7743, your species must have some limitations, some weaknesses? Admiral Jiwan smiled grimly. Our biggest weakness is probably that we overthink everything. We have contingency plans for our contingency plans. We've developed strategies for fighting wars against ourselves, against machines, like your collective, against beings we can't even see or touch. You have strategies for fighting against us? High Commander Zeftos's crystal form shifted to a deep red color. We have strategies for fighting against everyone, Yunji said, matter-of-factly. It's nothing personal. Human doctrine requires us to be prepared for any possible conflict, whether we want it or not. The alien representatives exchanged what might have been nervous glances. Commander Nam Soo-young had been silent until now, but she chose this moment to stand and move to the room's exercise area, where she began a simple demonstration of human physical capabilities. "If I may," she said, picking up a metal bar that was used for equipment maintenance. The bar was solid steel, 2 centimeters thick. Soo-young bent it into a pretzel shape with her bare hands, the metal groaning as it deformed. "That's impossible," said a representative of the Binary Stars Federation. "Biological beings cannot generate that much force." "Humans are stronger than most species," Dr. Lee explained. "We evolved on a high-gravity world with dangerous predators. But more importantly, we never stopped trying to improve ourselves." Soo-young continued her demonstration, moving through a series of combat forms that showcased human speed and agility. To the aliens watching, her movements were impossibly fast and precise. "This is basic close-quarters combat training that all human military personnel receive," she explained as she moved. "We can fight effectively in zero gravity, underwater, in toxic atmospheres, or in complete darkness." "You train your soldiers to fight in environments that would kill most species," observed the Botanical Collective representative. "We train our civilians to fight in those environments too," Soo-young corrected. "Every human child learns basic survival and combat skills." The silence that followed was heavy with implications. These aliens were beginning to understand that humanity wasn't just technologically superior. They were physically, mentally, and culturally adapted for warfare in ways that no galactic species could match. "Ambassador," said Hive Queen Zilthara, her insect-like form trembling slightly, "what happens if we refuse to allow humans into galactic space?" It was the question everyone had been thinking, but no one wanted to ask. Ambassador Ji-hoon considered his words carefully. "That would be unfortunate," he said finally. "Humanity values the principle of self-determination. If the galaxy chooses to exclude us, we would respect that decision." "But," prompted Prime Node 7743. "But we would not leave the galaxy, Admiral," Ji-won continued. "We would establish our own territories and continue our expansion. Eventually, our spheres of influence would overlap." "And then?" asked High Commander Zeftos. General Yoonji answered with military directness. "Then there would be a war. And based on what we've seen of galactic military capabilities, it would be a very short war." The alien representatives fell silent again. The mathematics were simple and terrifying. Humanity could destroy the galactic civilization, but they were offering to join it instead. The choice was clear. Accept humans as partners, or face them as conquerors. "There is another option," said a new voice. The speaker was from a species that hadn't participated before. The Eternal Watchers, ancient beings who claimed to be millions of years old. "What option?" asked Ambassador Ji-hoon. "You could leave the galaxy entirely. Return to your own space and never come back." The humans exchanged glances. General Yoonji was the first to respond. "No." "May I ask why not?" the Eternal Watcher continued. "Because running away from problems isn't how humans work," Yoonji said firmly. "We don't retreat from new challenges or opportunities. We adapt, we overcome, and we succeed." "Even if it means war?" "Even if it means war," Admiral Ji-won confirmed. "Though we sincerely hope it doesn't come to that." Dr. Kim Tae-hyun had been monitoring the discussion while running scans of the alien fleet. Now he looked up with a concerned expression. "Captain," he said quietly, "I'm detecting weapons charging throughout the fleet. Multiple ships are powering up their primary systems." On the tactical display, energy signatures flared across the alien formation. Ships that had maintained peaceful postures for days were now preparing for battle. "Honored representatives," Ambassador Ji-hoon said calmly, "are your fleets preparing to attack us?" "It has been decided," announced a voice from the hegemony fleet. "Humanity represents too great a threat to galactic peace. You will leave immediately or be destroyed." Captain Minho stood slowly, his expression unchanged. "I see. And how exactly do you plan to destroy us?" "Combined firepower from over 1,000 ships," replied the hegemony commander. "Even your superior technology cannot stand against those odds." There was a long pause. Then Admiral Ji-won began to laugh. "Admiral?" asked High Commander Zeftos. "I'm sorry," Ji-won said, wiping her eyes. "It's just, You're threatening us with 1,000 ships whose combined firepower is less than our navigational deflectors. The alien fleet fired. Every ship in the massive formation opened fire simultaneously, their weapons creating a light show that illuminated the entire star system. Beams of energy, particle streams, kinetic projectiles, and exotic weapons of every description converged on the human ship. The Titan's Wrath's shields didn't even flicker. "Your turn," said Captain Minho quietly. The human ship's defensive systems activated. Not weapons, just the automated point defense grid designed to clear space debris from the ship's path. Thousands of small turrets extended from the hull, each one targeting the largest ship in the alien fleet. The engagement lasted 4 seconds. When it was over, every alien flagship was disabled, their weapon systems completely destroyed, and their life support barely functioning. The human ship had not fired a single shot from its main weapons. 2 weeks had passed since the failed attack on the Titan's Wrath. The mood throughout the galaxy had shifted from fear to something approaching cautious respect. The humans had proven their overwhelming military superiority, but more importantly, they had shown restraint when they could have chosen destruction. Captain Minho stood in the ship's observatory, watching the steady stream of alien vessels approaching for diplomatic meetings. Representatives from dozens of species were coming to negotiate treaties, trade agreements, and cultural exchanges. The galaxy was learning to live with its new neighbors. "Sir," came a voice behind him. Lieutenant Park Jinwoo, the communications officer, looked troubled. "We're receiving long-range transmissions from beyond the galactic rim. Something's coming." Minho turned. "Define something." "Multiple contacts, sir. Large ones. They're still months away, but the energy signatures don't match any known galactic technology." In the main conference room, the emergency meeting included all the senior human staff and holographic representatives from every major galactic power. The atmosphere was tense as Dr. Kim Tae-hyun presented his analysis of the incoming signals. "The energy patterns are completely artificial," he explained, manipulating the holographic display. "These aren't ships in any sense we understand. They appear to be massive construction projects, mobile factories perhaps, or—" He paused. "Or what?" asked Admiral Ji-won. "Or weapons platforms. Each one is approximately the size of a small moon." High Commander Zeftos's crystal form shifted through several colors before settling on deep purple. "In all our history, we have never encountered anything like this." "We have," said General Yunji grimly. "The energy patterns match theoretical models for something we call devourer technology." "Devourers?" asked Hive Queen Zilthara. "Machine intelligences that consume entire star systems for raw materials," explained Dr. Lee Dong-yun. "Earth's scientists have theorized about them for centuries. Self-replicating machines that spread from galaxy to galaxy, stripping away everything useful and leaving empty space behind. Prime Node 7743 processed this information with artificial alarm." "You are saying that mechanical beings are approaching who wish to dismantle our civilization?" "That's exactly what we're saying," confirmed Captain Minho. "And based on these readings, they've probably destroyed dozens of galaxies already." The alien representatives fell silent as they processed this information. After surviving first contact with humanity, they now faced something that might be even worse. "How long do we have?" asked Ambassador Yoon Ji-hoon. 4 months, until the first wave reaches the outer systems," Dr. Kim Tae-hyun reported. 6 months until they reach the galactic core." "What can we do?" asked a representative from the Spiral Federation. General Yoonji studied the tactical display showing the approaching threat. "Individually, nothing. Your combined fleets wouldn't slow them down. But together?" She manipulated the display, showing potential defensive formations. "You're suggesting a joint human galactic fleet?" asked High Commander Zeftos. "I'm suggesting the only strategy that has a chance of working," Yoonji replied. "We combine our technologies, pool our resources, and fight them as one unified force." "Under human command?" The question came from a species that hadn't spoken before. The Iron Republic, machine beings who had joined the session. "Under joint command," Admiral Ji-won corrected. "This isn't about conquest. This is about survival." Engineer Oh Soo-min had been working frantically for days, developing new technologies that could be shared with the galactic fleets. Her latest report was both encouraging and sobering. "I've designed upgrade packages that can be installed on alien ships," she announced to the assembly. "New shield generators, weapon systems, and defensive measures. It won't make them equal to human ships, but it will make them dangerous to the Devourers." "How long will the upgrades take?" asked Captain Minho. 2 months to retrofit the core. Fleet ships. 4 months for the full Galactic Navy." "We don't have 4 months," pointed out Dr. Kim Tae-hyun. "Then we make do with what we can prepare in 2, said Admiral Ji-won decisively. The next week saw unprecedented cooperation between species that had been strangers just days before. Human engineers worked alongside Cathara technicians, Velnari, crystal shapers collaborated with quantum collective nodes, and dozens of other species contributed their unique capabilities to the joint defense effort. Pilot Kang Min-jae found himself training alien pilots in human combat techniques. The cultural differences were enormous. Most galactic species had never developed aggressive flying tactics, but they learned quickly when their survival depended on it. "Remember," he told a mixed squadron of human and alien pilots, "the Devourers think like machines. They're logical, efficient, and predictable. That means we can outthink them if we're creative enough." Commander Nam Soo-young was working with alien ground forces, preparing for the possibility that the Devourers might attempt planetary invasions. Watching a Cathara warrior practice human fighting techniques was surreal, but the insect-like being was adapting remarkably well. "Your species learns quickly," she complimented her student. "We are motivated by the desire to survive," the Cathara replied. "Fear is an excellent teacher." As the deadline approached, reports came in from the galaxy's edge. The first Devourer. Scout units had arrived and were systematically dismantling uninhabited star systems, turning planets into raw materials for larger constructions. 47 solar masses consumed in the last week, reported Dr. Kim Tae-hyun during the daily briefing. "They're building something massive." "How massive?" asked Captain Minho. "Based on the resource consumption rate, something the size of a small star." The joint fleet assembled at the designated coordinates was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human dreadnoughts flew alongside crystalline Velnari warships, Cathara swarm fighters mixed with quantum collective energy beings, and dozens of other vessel types created a rainbow of technologies working in harmony. "Fleet status report," Admiral Ji-won requested from her position aboard the command ship. 237 human vessels ready for combat," reported the tactical officer. 1,412 Allied ships fully upgraded and operational. Another 3,000 support vessels in reserve positions. It was an impressive force, but everyone knew it might not be enough. The Devourer fleet appeared at the edge of the system like a dark cloud. Their ships were massive, utilitarian constructs with no regard for aesthetics. Pure function expressed in metal and energy. The largest vessel was indeed the size of a small star, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. "All ships, this is Admiral Ji-won," came the transmission across the joint fleet. "Today we fight not as separate species, but as one people defending our home. Show them that this galaxy will not go quietly into the dark." The battle began. The Devourers attacked with mechanical precision, their formations perfect, and their tactics ruthlessly efficient. But they had calculated based on the military capabilities they had observed in other galaxies, species that had never learned to fight the way humans fought. Pilot Min-jae led a mixed squadron in a desperate attack on one of the smaller Devourer ships. "Remember your training," he called to his alien wingmates. "We're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to survive an unfair one." The human-trained alien pilots flew like demons, using tactics that the Devourer's programming couldn't counter. They struck from impossible angles, used their enemies' own weapons against them, and fought with a creativity that pure logic couldn't match. Engineer Suman's upgrades proved their worth as alien ships that should have been destroyed in seconds instead stood and fought, their new shields and weapons giving them the power to hurt beings that had destroyed entire galaxies. "The Cathara swarm is engaging the enemy flagship," reported the tactical officer. "They're using the new hive mind coordination protocols." On the main screen, thousands of small Cathara fighters moved like a single organism, overwhelming the Devourer ship's defenses through sheer numbers and perfect coordination. It was beautiful and terrifying to watch. The battle raged for hours. Ships died on both sides, but the joint fleet held together, each species contributing their unique strengths to the fight. When Velnari crystal ships shattered, their fragments were caught by quantum collective energy beings and reformed into weapons. When human ships took damage, Cathara repair swarms swarmed over them like healing insects. "Enemy flagship is taking critical damage," announced Captain Minho from the Titan's Wrath. "All ships, concentrate fire." The massive Devourer construct, larger than most moons, began to break apart under the combined assault of technologies from across the galaxy. As it died, its destruction triggered a chain reaction that took out half the enemy fleet. "Remaining enemy ships are withdrawing," reported the sensor operator. "We've won." The celebration that followed was heard across every inhabited world in the galaxy. The joint fleet had not just survived, they had driven off an enemy that had destroyed civilizations older than most of their species. "Admiral," came a transmission from High Commander Zeftos, "on behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally request that humanity accept membership in our community, not as conquerors or protectors but as equals and friends."